Well, hello everybody. Alan here. Just wanted to touch base with you and share some missionaries that you may already know. A lot of people from Praise are already connected with this family. Someone who a while back was here at Praise Assembly and was a part of the life of Praise during that time. Moved out into ministry and now is getting ready to go out on the missions field. And I wanted to reintroduce them to you at Praise. And then also, if you've never met them, give you an introduction as well. Danny and Sherry Davis have been just a real blessing to Praise. When they were here, if there was things that needed to be done, they were the ones that you would touch base with and ask to do it. There are many things even now that I can look back on and remember that they were a part of. I had the opportunity also to youth pastor their boys for a time, and that was something that I was honored to have the opportunity to do. So as the Davises are getting ready to move out in ministry, I wanted to just take this opportunity to introduce them to you. So Danny and Sherry, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. We're so glad to be with you, and hello to everyone at Praise. And it's been a while since we've seen some, but we're so thankful to have been there and been a part of the life there. And our boys were forever impacted by the youth ministry there, and we're just very thankful.
Yeah. Well, and you all, when you came to Praise, you were just coming off of a time of ministry, and then we're at Praise for a time before moving back into ministry. And just to be able to give people a little bit of a background for who you are and what you're about, and maybe some of your experience already, and then kind of walking through what God is calling you to. Do you mind just giving us a little bit of a background, just starting right there, your history and your experience in missions specifically?
Yeah, when we came to Praise in, I think it was 2011, right? Yeah, 2011. We had just returned from 12 years of work in South Africa as church planting missionaries there. And our boys pretty well grew up in Africa. And then we were at Praise for a time and actually kind of felt like we were going to head back to Africa, but it seemed like the Lord said, not now. And the Lord opened up an opportunity for us to go to a rural church, Assembly of God church in Odessa, Missouri, that was about to close its doors after almost 80 years of existence. And the church, we've been there for the last almost 8 years, and it's just been an amazing ride. We were able to pay off the church debt. The church grew. We were able to remodel the entire building, develop leaders, and the Lord just did amazing things. And all through that, I was working on my doctorate and finished my doctorate and wrote about revitalization of rural churches here in southern Missouri. And that ended up becoming picked up by a publisher, and the book was created, and the book's done real well. But all that time raising our kids and watching them grow. We've got our oldest is now in the United States Army, and then our youngest is in the trades and doing great. And it's been a whirlwind of the last 8 years or so, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we've been since launching out from Praise, and just seeing the Lord do amazing things there at just seeing that church turn around and see God's hand in all that.
Yeah, and the name of that book, just in case somebody would be interested, is that Rural Church Turnaround? I'm not entirely sure I've got that right.
Yeah, it's a Rural Church Turnaround. You can get it at Amazon or wherever, but it's the story of four, including ours, four rural churches in southern Missouri that were either on the brink of closing or considering closing, and how those pastors worked with lay leaders, volunteer leaders, to help bring new life to a congregation, because we just believe desperately that the local church is one of the most powerful tools in God's kingdom, and that every community deserves a life-giving church. And so we didn't want to see a church of 80 something years turn around. When we got there in 2013, the church was in tremendous debt, and just honestly, just a struggle. I mean, all the way around in the community and all that. But in 2019, we were awarded the Community Betterment Award by the Odessa Chamber of Commerce for the work that we were doing in our school system and with our local businesses within the community itself. And we were honored to receive that on behalf of the church. And we went from being the church that nobody really knew about to being an influence in the community, and helped to start Odessa's there's a lot of poverty there in a rural community, and we were able to help start some initiatives through the local schools and different community organizations. We never started anything new. We just found out what was going on and got into it and got the church involved in it, and the Lord just began to open doors. And then we began to see people come into faith, and people returning to church after not being there because of some situations in the past. And yeah, it was really, really good. And we watched the Lord really opened up a great thing for our youth group. We went from about 4 students in the beginning of 2018 to close to 45 students by the end of by the beginning of 2019. And yeah, just awesome stuff.
Yeah, that is awesome. So do you mind, I mean, that experience with South Africa, what was it that you were doing when you were previously on the missions field, and did a lot of those things just directly translate to local church pastoring, or how has that experience kind of spoken to your most recent ministry?
Yeah, my wife said everything. We did missions differently than what you mostly might see. We were actually asked by our missions agency to go and revitalize a church that was also about to shut down in Johannesburg. It had just been started, and by an American missionary kid, and he had to kind of move away from that. The church was turned over to a national leadership, and then there were some issues, and the church was about to close. And so we were asked to go there and to take the pastor to this local church, which is not very common in missions work. Typically, in
our organization, it was unheard of.
Yeah, it was unheard of. Yeah. And so we worked to revitalize that church, and then we planted 3 more churches out of that. Now this was in a major city, like we were a city of 9 million people, and then we go to Odessa and it's like 5,000. So
the work was the same.
Yeah, but yeah, the work was the same, just loving people. And but it helped us to see, I think the big thing is, like, when we came into Odessa, when we came into this next part of ministry, we came to it with a missionary mindset, right? That we're going to learn the culture of the community. We're going to learn the rhythms of the community. What is it about, and how can we be a part of that? And I think that really helped us because small towns are hard to kind of break into sometimes because it's kind of close knit. But the work we did there, we focused. My wife led the children's ministry there, and we focused on, because in South Africa, about 50-60% of the nation is under the age of 15. And we really focused on children's and teen ministry. And we would start churches by starting what you might call Sunday school. So we would go start a Sunday school in an area, and then next thing you know, we'd have 50, 60, 70, sometimes up to 100 and something kids. And then we would start saying, now invite your aunties and invite your grandmothers and mothers and family. And over a 12-year period, we baptized it was 740 people, and about 600 of those received spirit baptism. And so it was very fruitful. And then we come to the States, and we just begin to apply those same principles, really focusing on young people, and my wife equipping. We actually won our neighbor to the Lord, and then he became the youth pastor. And so eventually, and her helping to equip that ministry and do that. And so yeah, I mean, it just seemed like everything just weaves together, right? And develop leaders and so on.
Yeah. So when you talk about weaving together, so first off, I didn't know that I've been keeping updated, but I didn't know that you had received your doctorate. Congratulations. That's obviously the end result of a tremendous amount of labor. I can't imagine. So congratulations on that. But also, so it just shows, I think, at least to me, that there was a continual pressing forward of, okay, the Lord is still continuing to call us forward, and where that is, we want to prepare for that next step. So do you mind kind of walking me through how the Lord had then called you from what was a vital ministry in this town to now stepping back out onto the missions field? Do you mind kind of just walking us through that, and then maybe even what it is that you see God calling you to?
Yeah. We, about 3 years ago, we began to feel a shifting back toward Africa. But we knew the church we weren't ready to leave, and the church wasn't ready for us to leave. We felt like there were still things for us to accomplish there. And so we just began to set priorities, what's most important for us, leaders to develop, things to put in place, as we just prayed and sought the Lord about where to go. And we knew Africa, but Africa's a big place. And so we didn't know exactly where. And oddly enough, during the shutdown, during the March timeframe where we had to shut down the services, I didn't want to lose our missionary focus, because our small rural church there had given close to $10,000 to $11,000 a year to missions over that time, and each year. And so I didn't want to lose focus on that. So I had scheduled a missionary family, Derek and Rebecca Fondamerve, who I believe is also supported by Praise. I had asked them to come and be with us in service, but we couldn't do that, right? So I called Derek and I said, hey, just send me a 5-minute video and we'll show it to the church. Well, little did I know that while I'm sitting in my garage, because as a solo pastor, I'm the preacher, the producer, the chat room guy, all that for the online services. And so we edited this video into the regular service. My wife's in one part of the house, I'm in another part of the house. And as Derek and Rebecca are talking, they mentioned that in Uganda, there were 550 pastors who desperately needed theological and leadership training. And as sure as we're talking here, I know the Lord spoke to me immediately and said, I've prepared this place for you to go. And I just finished the service and kind of hid that in my heart. And so later on, we did what all good rural people do. We got in the car and went to Sonic for an ice cream, right? And so we're sitting in the car, and my wife looks at me and she says, do you feel like the Lord spoke something to you during service today? And I said, yeah, but why don't you tell me what you heard first, And she said, we're going to Uganda. And that is exactly what the Lord had spoke to us in different parts of the house, and so we literally made application the next day and began to work through that process. And the Lord has been so faithful. And and so our heart is there, our burden is there. We've never been to Uganda. The closest we've been is Ethiopia, and that's pretty far away. But God just to put an immediate love and burden in our hearts for the people of Uganda, the churches of Uganda. And we're, then here's what's crazy. In January of 2020, there were no appointed missionaries to Uganda, but the East Africa team were praying that God would send them missionaries who had former missionary experience, who had pastored churches, and who had a doctorate. And they were praying that specifically. And 10,000 miles away, God spoke to us to get on the team. And then, well, I mean, between January and then the Lord calling us, Derek and Rebecca, Sean and Megan Deal, felt like God had directed them toward Uganda. So we went from no missionary presence to now 3 missionary families who are going to be going there to work in partnership alongside the Ugandan Assembly of God. And so it's just been a whirlwind of God's confirmation and door opening all the way down the road. So
yeah, well, and it seems like it. I mean, there's obviously his direction. It has been, while you've been prepared and as you've done, put the labor in, he is the one who has been orchestrating those steps, which is just such a beautiful picture and such a beautiful thing to see from the outside, from someone who hadn't been praying that direction, but then to see how God was answering others' prayers in that way. That's beautiful to see. So when you say working with and helping equip pastors, can you kind of walk me through where you really sense the Lord is calling you to make an impact there in Uganda?
Yeah, we are again, we're part of the team, but our primary focus and where we sense the Lord has positioned us is to help build a strong educational system for pastors and for church leaders, not just credentialed ministers, but also for church leaders. And so our primary goal is to work with the Ugandan Assembly of God to develop a contextual, relevant educational system that'll start at the discipleship level at the church, and then maybe a diploma for those who are seeking credentials, and then who knows, throughout the years it may work all the way into a graduate school or whatever. But at this point, we really want to focus on that local church, making strong disciples in the local church who in turn make other disciples, so that we can build strong churches. Now, in tandem with that, we feel like the Lord has brought us into rural ministry for this time. 82% of Ugandans live in a rural context. And so now it ain't rural like America, but it's rural. And Uganda is like 2/3 of Uganda is north of the equator and 1/3 is below the equator. Above the equator, north of the equator, the church is not established as much as it is below the equator. And so we feel like God is calling us to partner with men and women who want to plant churches in rural and remote areas where there's no gospel presence, where maybe there's no church established, and go to those areas. And thank God for Speed the Light. We'll have a vehicle that we can get into those remote areas with, and work alongside Ugandan men and women of God who will go where the gospel hasn't been preached, and with the ultimate goal of making disciples and making disciple-centered, disciple-focused churches.
In the church.
Yeah.
That's within walking distance.
Yeah, I mean, part of the vision of the Africa region is that there would be a church planted within walking distance of every African. Well, then our part of that is let's plant a church within walking distance of every Ugandan, right? So that means equipping pastors, equipping church leaders, focusing strong on discipleship, and watching an organization that has had some struggles, to be honest with you, but they're ready to see some great things happen, and we're just glad to be a part of that. and get a chance to be some small part of what we see happening. And so that's going to be our primary focus, just equipping.
So if God were to speak to somebody of praise about how they might be able to participate with you in that, of course, prayer is a big deal, what
Sure.
they would be praying for, and then support. Can you kind of walk me through what that might look like?
Yeah, the best way to kind of see all of that together is to go to our website, which is davisinafrica.com, davisinafrica.com. And you can sign up for our newsletter. You can become a part of our prayer team, which we really need people who will be praying with us. And then also there's a link there for if someone would decide to financially partner with us, they can do that there. Gives a little bit about us and what our role is there. That's the best place to start. And then specifically pray, we've made the adjustments in Africa before, but this is a different place. It's a different people. And we really need God to help us quickly know exactly where we need to work and move forward, because we just need the direction of the Lord as we work with the national leadership there. And so to begin praying first that God would just give us open doors to build great relationships with the national leaders. And then secondly, obviously we're stepping out and we're leaving behind 2 sons. They're adults, but still, we want to see them thrive, not only financially and vocationally, but we want to see them thrive spiritually. And so, continue to pray for Logan and Dylan. One of them, Logan, is getting married soon, and so the family's expanding, and so but a lot of those those prayer requests are available there on the website.
Also for health and safety for the teams.
Yeah.
Because the water is not safe in Uganda.
Yeah. So there's just the health and safety of all of our team members. It's only 20% of Uganda has access to electricity, and the further you go north, it drops down to like 10% of the people who have access to electricity. So we get to be a part of that, and so learning to negotiate those kind of things, water safety, food safety, for all of our team members, and because we just want to stay healthy so we can do the work of God.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to just share a little bit about where God is taking you from and bringing you to, and just his faithfulness through every step of that, and how he has used you. And I will put up at the end of this video that davisinafrica.com, just so that people might be able to get to that. We'll also put the link in the description so that you can check it out there. So you can go right to that website. You can see those prayer requests and just kind of keep updated with where they are in this journey, and also have an opportunity to go right to that support page that you might be able to participate financially in what God is going to be doing in their ministry. Davis says, thank you so much for walking us through this. And if you got any final words, just of encouragement or exhortation, I would just love to give you one more opportunity to say, something specific to praise.
Right. Again, thank you, Praise. You guys have been the church there has been I'll say it this way, the Praise Assembly helped us to heal in a very strange time in our life after coming off the field. And we've just never been to a place that just loved us like you guys loved us, and helped us to heal in some areas, and so that we could get back out and doing what God has called us to do. And so thanks for doing that and being a part of that with us.
And he's talked a lot, and I don't talk a lot, but I want to say thank you to Praise for like you said, being a refuge in a kind of a long story spot that we were in. And I remember the first day we came to praise, and it was a Wednesday night, and Pastor Fent was away, but Michelle and her husband was there, Lori and her husband was there, and you guys were there, just open arms to our family. Because when we came from overseas, I said I didn't have a desire to drag my family from church to church, but I knew that God had the exact spot for our family to be, and to just be a part and heal and grow. And so Praise Assembly was that for us, and I'll never forget it, and I'll be forever grateful for that. What you guys did for our boys, how you love them, how you just embrace them, and they'll never forget it. And even to this day, if they come to Springfield, they say we got to go see Pastor Allen. So just thankful for that, and thankful for this opportunity to be able to express the burden that God has put on our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again. And I did see Dylan when he was coming through. I congratulate Logan for me if you would. That's a big deal. It's exciting for him, and we do look forward to seeing how God might continue to use you all as part of that team going to Uganda. And we just trust the Lord is going to protect and bless and then use you all effectively in ministry. Thank you again so much for joining us today. God bless you.
Thank you.